And away we go. Episode 1085 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. It is the first installment of this podcast in this month of June 2025. And this month of June will feature an NBA Finals pitting the Indiana Pacers against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Game 1 Thursday night at 8:30 in OKC. The Pacers on Saturday night ripped the New York Knicks 125-108 to win the best-of-7 Eastern Conference Finals 4-2. The Thunder last Wednesday night routed the Minnesota Timberwolves 124-94 to win the Western Conference Finals in 5 games. Just how bad will the ratings for these NBA Finals be? That is the question. Not because these two teams aren't compelling. They are, but because of the market sizes for these two teams. There are 210 designated market areas, DMAs, listed by the 2024-2025 Nielsen rankings. The Washington, D.C. area is number 8. Indianapolis is number 25. Oklahoma City is number 47. Yeah, number 47. How low will the NBA Finals ratings go? We shall see. But I tell you, as a Wizards fan, what stands out to me as much as anything is the best player on the Pacers, their point guard, their superstar, Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton was taken by the Sacramento Kings with the number 12 overall pick in the 2020 NBA Draft. 3 picks after our Wizards took Denny Avdia with the number 9 overall pick. The Wizards could have had Halliburton. And it's not like Avdia was a bad player for the Wizards. He was a good player for the Wizards, and he brought a nice return in the Wizards' trading of him to the Portland Trail Blazers in a trade that was officially announced this past July 6th. But of course, the Wizards would have been better off taking Halliburton. And yes, you could play this game with a lot of teams in a lot of drafts, but does it not seem like you can play this game more than you should with the Wizards?
The damn Washington Wizards.
Thank you, Stephen A. Smith. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. The Commanders are the number 6 team in the NFL per ESPN's Football Power Index, the FPI, which has the Commanders this coming season with a 58% chance of making the playoffs, a 31% chance of winning the NFC East, a 10% chance of winning the NFC, and a 5% chance of winning the Super Bowl. The FPI is bullish on the Commanders. We next segment are going to talk about this with ESPN NFL analytics expert Seth Walder, including why the FPI is so high on the Commanders, how we should be thinking about the team in terms of 2 potential regression areas in health and 3rd and 4th down efficiencies, what quarterback Jayden Daniels doing so well in terms of ESPN's total QBR metric last season tells us, why the Philadelphia Eagles are the smallest preseason Super Bowl favorite that the FPI has had since it began projections in 2015, and more. ESPN Seth Walder, next segment on ESPN's FPI being high on the Commanders. Also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats, they over the weekend won 2 out of 3 games at the Arizona Diamondbacks, with the 2 wins coming thanks in large part to mammoth offensive performances. Also, the Nats on Saturday evening announced having designated reliever Jorge Lopez for assignment. The O's, they over the weekend completed a 3-game sweep of the American League worst Chicago White Sox at Oriole Park at Camden Yards in a battle of the 2 worst teams in the American League. Before we get to some feedback, we have more on the future of Capitals winger Alex Ovechkin. Hockey News Hub on Friday morning on X highlighted that Ovechkin's wife, Anastasia Shubskaya, she recently told a Russian media outlet, quote, "Alexander still has a contract for a year, so we will play the next season and then fly back to live in Moscow, to our homeland. We will stay in Russia, yes," end quote. That would seem to be saying that next season will be Ovi's final NHL season. It was this past Thursday afternoon that Caps Public Relations on X put up the following post, quote, "No decision has been made on Alex Ovechkin's future following the 2025-26 NHL season." An email was sent from an individual with the corporate sales department that mistakenly alluded to next year being Alex Ovechkin's final year, end quote. So is next season Ovi's final season in the NHL, or isn't next season Ovi's final NHL season? It is the final season of a 5-year, $47.5 million contract to which Ovi was re-signed in July 2021. Next season would be his age 40 season. Here's my thing. Even if he is planning on next season being his final NHL season, what if he has another great season? Ovi for the 2024-2025 regular season was tied for number 3 in the NHL in goals with 44. What if he has another 40-goal campaign? Or even if he has a 30-goal campaign? Is he still going to retire if, in fact, that's the plan? Like, I do think that this plan could be fluid. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. From the Mr. National on X writes, the Mr. National, hey, Galdi, I think you should cover this on the next podcast. Thank you for that, the Mr. National. And the Mr. National wrote this in a quote post of a video of Mike Florio, creator and editor-in-chief of NBC Sports' Pro Football Talk, a man who I, for years, have referred to as Fake News Florio. And Fake News Florio in this video says some stuff about the Commanders. This is from PFT Live on Peacock on Friday. Florio talking with Michael Holley about whether the Commanders this offseason have closed the gap between them and the Philadelphia Eagles, at whom, of course, the Commanders lost 55-23 in the NFC Championship game this past January 26. Here you go.
The day of the NFC Championship, someone I know who is very well plugged in said the Commanders know they're going to get their asses kicked today, and they're just kind of bracing for it. And it's like, come on, man. I mean, no, I know people in the building, they know what's coming. And it's like, well, maybe they're just preparing for the worst. Like, no, they know that the Eagles are dramatically better than they are.
All right. I, of course, do not know who said that to Mike Florio. Maybe what someone said to Florio was 100% correct. Maybe the Commanders did go into the NFC Championship game knowing that they were going to get blown out at the Eagles. But if you know anything about the 2024 Washington Commanders, you know that a defeated woe is us mentality is the exact opposite of the mentality that the team had. Like, maybe there were some, lower level people in the front office who thought that the team was going to get blown out. But I would be surprised and disappointed if anyone in the upper echelon of the front office or anyone on the coaching staff or any of the players felt that way. And one of the things that still sticks with me is how gutted and drained and somber General Manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn seemed to be during their joint season-ending press conference on January 27th, the day after the game. Those guys seemed genuinely disappointed and sad with how the team's season ended. Is this another instance of fake news, Florio? Is he wrong with what he said? Is he lying about what he said? I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not just going to say that he's wrong or is lying without knowing. It could be that he's bullseye accurate here. I do know this. A, Mike Florio has been wrong on plenty of stuff over the years, particularly stuff having to do with Washington. And B, the overwhelming majority of what Florio has said and written about Washington over the years has been negative. Now, in fairness to Florio, there often has been good reason to be negative about Washington. You have to concede that. But he, to me, has been over the top with the negativity about Washington. He, to me, has gone out of his way to bash the team. Here's the thing, too, about the NFC Championship game. Yes, the Commanders lost 55-23. Yes, that was a humiliating final score. And the Eagles' 55 points are the most points scored by a team in any NFL conference championship game since the 1970 NFL-AFL merger. But the score was 34-23 at the end of the third quarter. The game got out of hand in the fourth quarter, which the Eagles won 21-0. The Eagles were the better team. The Eagles very much outplayed the Commanders, but the game for 3 quarters was not a blowout. And what, of course, killed the Commanders in this game was them losing the turnover battle 4-0. 3 lost fumbles and an interception, though the interception came in garbage time, but the 3 lost fumbles were brutal. Jayden Daniels in the game played well. His total QBR per ESPN for the game was 84.2. That's great. He was let down big time by those 3 lost fumbles, one by receiver De'Ami Brown on a reception, one by running back Austin Eckler on a reception, and one by running back Jeremy McNichols on a kickoff return. And, of course, the Commanders' defense in the game got shredded, and yet still 34-23 was the score going into the fourth quarter. The Austin Eckler lost fumble happened on the next to last snap of the third quarter. On a 3rd and 10 for the Commanders at their 36 with 1:02 left in the third quarter, Jayden Daniels had a 13-yard shotgun completion to tight end Zach Ertz, who made a sliding catch as Daniels beat the blitz. So we had that big third down conversion to set up a 1st and 10 for the Commanders at their 49 with 32 seconds left in the third quarter, down by 11. And then came the Austin Eckler lost fumble. So yes, the Commanders got blown out. There is no denying that. But there is some context here. If Eckler doesn't commit that lost fumble, who knows what happens? Well, as you may recall, Jayden Daniels in that NFC Championship game had a touchdown pass to receiver Terry McLaurin, a great sponsor of this podcast, an Ace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It now also is sponsoring the Full Circle Jobs program, which was created by Terry McLaurin and Mobile Hope. This to help over 200 local youth prepare for the workforce, a terrific cause. The Ace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, has been a Washington, D.C. institution for decades. Founded in 1979, the Ace Law Group offers fierce advocacy on behalf of medical malpractice, birth injury, and personal injury victims. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Ace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C. InjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. Led by the great Chris Nace, the Nace Law Group is focused on providing exceptional care and counsel for those who need such things the most. The Nace Law Group fights for what it believes in, you, your family, and your future. You with the Nace Law Group have an experienced advocate on your side. The Nace Law Group has secured millions of dollars in verdict and settlement amounts for clients to better enable them to care for themselves and their families. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C. InjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C. InjuryLawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. Hey, thank you to all of you who have given this podcast a 5-star rating and who have written nice reviews of the podcast. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. You perhaps are familiar with ESPN's Football Power Index, the FPI. The FPI is ESPN's football ratings and projection model. We this past Tuesday, May 27th, got the first NFL FPI rankings for the 2025 season. The Commanders came in at number 6. The top 5, number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 4, the Detroit Lions. Number 5, the Buffalo Bills. I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast a person who understands the FPI extremely well and who wrote about these initial NFL FPI rankings for the 2025 season in an ESPN.com piece that came out this past Wednesday, May 28th. ESPN NFL analytics expert Seth Walder. You can follow Seth on X at Seth Walder. Seth, nice to talk to you. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Al?
Doing well. Appreciate you coming on. As you wrote in your ESPN.com piece, quote, in the preseason, FPI's overall predictive ratings are primarily based on win totals from the betting market in conjunction with each team's schedule, along with factors such as the difference between a team's starting and backup quarterbacks and a special teams rating that incorporates specific kickers. We use these ratings to simulate the season thousands of times with the results forming our projections, end quote. How much of a role do you yourself play in computing the FPI ratings?
Basically zero. Look, in terms of the inputs to the ratings are driven by the betting market, some factors like the difference between the starting quarterback and the backup quarterback. There's some factors like coordinator changes, your kicker, all of those things. I don't really touch any of it until we get to the output at the end. So I'm lucky enough to work with some really sharp colleagues who do the heavy lifting, and then I get to take it from there.
So the Commanders are number 6 in the first NFL FPI rankings for the 2025 season. You on X this past Tuesday, May 27th, posted a graphic of the rankings. Next to the Commanders is plus 2.7. What does the plus 2.7 mean?
Yeah, so that means it's the number of points that we expect them to be relative to average on a neutral field. So if Washington were to play average NFL team, a blank average NFL team, we would expect the Commanders to be 2.7 point favorites on a neutral field. So someone like Pittsburgh is sort of like the closest we have to average, and so we would have Washington as about 2.7, slightly less, 2.6 point favorites over them if they played in, I don't know, the middle of the country or something.
ESPN's NFL FPI projections have the Commanders this coming season with a 58% chance of making the playoffs, a 31% chance of winning the NFC East, a 10% chance of winning the NFC, and a 5% chance of winning the Super Bowl. There has been a good bit of talk about the Commanders being a regression candidate for this coming season, but it sounds like FPI expects the team to have a good season.
I got to be honest now. Washington was one of the teams I was surprised about. I also see, I think there's two ways to look at it, right? Like, sort of, if you think of how far Washington went in the postseason, of course they're a regression candidate because, of course, that is not the most likely scenario for them. I think everybody knows they sort of overachieved in the playoffs a little bit, and then also just the nature of the game. There's 32 teams you would expect no one is going to be a lock to make the Final Four, and I think that the Commanders. There is some reason I think other reasons why you might expect regression. Like, to me, I want to do some more work on this offseason, but Jayden Daniels ran so hot on 3rd and 4th down that, you wonder, well, those are really high leverage moments. They count more in terms of how the effect on the game. But what does it say about him that he had this big discrepancy between early downs and late downs? So, like, those are reasons why you might expect some real regression. And so I was surprised to see them at 6 here. Obviously, the model feels somewhat differently, right? They're outside of that top 5. You mentioned the top 5 teams. That's like the elite group. Washington is like the best of the next.
As you know, the FPI is a cold-blooded, ruthless, objective methodology. Why is it that the FPI likes the Commanders so much?
Well, I think you have this young quarterback in Daniels who played so well. We often see quarterbacks, even highly drafted ones, not be able to put it all together in year one, and that's fine, and they'll still improve and go on to have great careers. Here he had a great season in year one, so the ceiling is just so high for them. They've obviously spent resources to upgrade the offensive line, for example. I think that is a big factor. And so you look at that, you could look at that offense and say, hey, yeah, it's probably going to be pretty efficient. I think that there's like some areas where you could have some qualms, though. I mean, like the pass rush, for example, I think you could look at that and say, hey, is that going to be enough? Is this the 6th best team with a pass rush like that? There's ways to have questions about the Commanders, but what does drive FPI more than anything is the betting market, and I think that's going to be some of your most accurate predictions. And it's a good sign for them that the betting market, when I say the betting market, the way it works is we look at the season win totals, but in conjunction with your schedule. So it has to marry the win total with the schedule. Two teams might both have 8.5 win totals, but the VIG might be a certain way, and also the schedules might be totally different. So if you have an 8.5 win total against a hard schedule, that says you're a better team than an 8.5 win schedule against an easy schedule. So that's what I mean when I say we're factoring in the betting market, and it's obviously pretty optimistic about Washington.
ESPN's NFL FPI projections have the Commanders with a projected win total for the 2025 regular season of 9.3. That, of course, is lower than the 12 wins that the team had this past regular season. But the win total projections are notoriously conservative, and that's not just with the FPI. MLB analytics sites like Baseball Prospectus and Fangraphs are known for conservative win total projections. The highest win total projection from the FPI for the 2025 regular season is 10.6 for the Buffalo Bills. We know how NFL seasons go. There will be plenty of teams in the 2025 regular season, each with at least 11 wins. Why are win total projections usually so conservative?
It's a great question. It's because when we're saying the projection, we're considering the mean outcome for these teams. And so if you think about it, it's like if you run the season 10,000 times, what is going to happen? Yes, there will be times where Washington will win 13 or 14 games, but there are also worlds where injuries happen, where luck goes terrible, where they're actually just not as good as we thought, and those could be 5, 6, 7 win seasons. And I know that sounds somewhat ludicrous, but I also point you to our number one team in FPI last year, the San Francisco 49ers, and they won 6 games. So it's like it's so much more within the realm of possibility, the downside for all of these teams than I think we generally think about. And so that's what always keeps the projections to be tighter to the mean than you would expect. And by the way, the flip side is true too, right? Like the worst teams tend to have higher projections than you might expect.
I want to ask you about a few areas in which the Commanders last season were very good, but these are two areas that do tend to fluctuate year to year. The first area is health. The Commanders last season enjoyed good injury luck. NFL analytics pioneer Aaron Schatz has the metric adjusted games lost, which quantifies the impact of injuries on a team by considering both the number of games a player misses and the importance of that player to the team. The Commanders for the 2024 regular season were number 5 in the NFL in fewest adjusted games lost. We know that injury luck is volatile. That said, we also know that some teams do better jobs than other teams do of taking care of players and perhaps reduce the randomness of player health. The Commanders, under managing partner Josh Harris and general manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn, have put money and strategy into player health. To what extent can NFL teams influence player health on a season-to-season basis?
Look, this is like a really closely related field to analytics, and certainly you can use data analysis in what I would call injury prevention or sports performance. It's not my area of expertise. I think the answer is, if you asked me to guess, I would say no, I don't think it's random, though there is a lot of randomness in there, right? So I think that teams probably could do different things to affect performance, or to affect injury prevention, but it's not totally random. But at the same time, the question is always not just how can we reduce the number of injuries to be as low as possible. The question is, what is like the maximum optimal trade-off between practice time, game playing time, and injury prevention, right? I have a great way to make sure that your injuries are super low. Don't play any of your players. Like that, like if you take it to the extreme, that none of your stars, you don't put them on the field ever in practice, you don't ever put them on the field in the game, your injuries are going to be super low. Well, that's obviously not great. And so like there is this trade-off that I think it's really hard to measure because you can never know the counterfactual, right? We can say, oh, would we have gotten hurt less if we'd practiced less, if we hadn't worked them as hard in practice? Yeah, probably. Would they have performed worse had they been healthy? That's the hard part to know. So I'm with you. There's certainly one thing we know, right? You have older guys, older players, they can certainly be more of an injury risk. And there are some bets on this team, certainly.
The Commanders in the 2024 regular season were really efficient on third and fourth downs. Number 6 in the NFL in third down efficiency, 45.6%. Number 1 in the NFL in fourth down efficiency, 87%, 20 for 23. We know that third and fourth down efficiencies tend to fluctuate year to year. We also know that the Commanders have a very good quarterback in Jayden Daniels. How plausible is it that the team will be very efficient on third and fourth downs for a second consecutive regular season?
I plan to look at this a little more in this offseason, but if you ask me to guess right now, I would say I think regression is probably coming. The thing is that third and fourth downs are key plays, critical plays. It makes sense that we study these teams on there. But what happens is that the effect size of those plays is just so much larger than first and second down. And so it just impacts the way that the ultimate result so much more. And so it's easy to imagine that we look at this and say, if every play is equally indicative of player skill, then a team that is performs really well on third and fourth down, not as well on first, second down, that team would be overrated. There are like flip side worlds where you could say like, hey, well, whatever you're doing on third and fourth down, if you're playing to your strengths on those downs, should you be doing that more on first and second down? Could you raise the floor on those early downs? Like that may be, to me, it's like, okay, Daniels. Oh, if he uses his legs or something like that, that could be an argument on third and fourth down. I mean, he's allowed to use his legs on first and second down too. So I think that my instinct is that regression will come in that area that I would expect them to be not as, it's not just not as efficient on those plays, but then effectively not as efficient overall. But I think it's something I'm going to examine a little bit more this year before September.
Much more with Seth Walder in moments, but as we are now into June, know that if you live in Northern Virginia, you can count on Nova Fireplace and Stove for whatever your outdoor living needs may be. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers custom outdoor fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, grills, fire pits, and patio heaters. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers free in-home estimates for Northern Virginia residents for outdoor kitchens and gas lines. If you live in Northern Virginia and want to increase the look, feel, and value of your home via high-level outdoor living, contact Nova Fireplace and Stove, which is offering a special deal for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Call 571-513-3803 or visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. This includes cleaning, safety inspection, tune-up, and diagnostic work. Also, Nova Fireplace and Stove offers generators, car charging stations, patio pavers, and water heater replacement/repair. Nova Fireplace and Stove has been around for 2+ decades and is outstanding. It is family owned. It is a 5-star dealer. It is expanding its showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia to include a new outdoor showroom section. Call 571-513-3803. Asked to speak to Stuart Moore. He's the general manager. He's a big Commanders fan. He's a loyal listener of this podcast. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com to check out customer reviews. 571-513-3803 or NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. We're talking Commanders with ESPN NFL analytics expert Seth Walder. The first ESPN NFL Football Power Index rankings for the 2025 season have the Commanders as the number 6 team in the NFL. Jayden Daniels for the 2024 regular season was number 4 among all qualified quarterbacks in the NFL in ESPN's total QBR, 70.6. QBR is on a scale of 0 to 100. A rookie having a total QBR of 70.6 is outstanding. Is total QBR predictive from a standpoint of if a quarterback, especially a rookie, is really good in total QBR, then he's likely to continue to be really good in total QBR?
The short answer is yes. QBR is a really good measure of a quarterback's production. And so I'm not saying it is a very descriptive stat. It is not a predictive stat. However, it is taking into account all of the context around a quarterback, right? Like the down distance, yard lines, those things play a big role. If you're playing from behind, if it's garbage time, it's effectively measuring turnovers, sacks, those all play a role. And so yes, like there is a fair amount of stability in QBR. It's not crazy stable because we do see quite a bit of fluctuation for quarterbacks. I think like with Daniels, it really comes down to to me, it comes back to your previous question. You mentioned how strong he did in QBR. He was 15th in QBR on early downs. And so that's really where you see this like huge discrepancy. But again, third and fourth down are going to matter so much more because the volatility is so much higher on those downs. And so I think that will be the question. It's obviously a great sign though. I mean, I think we're talking about reasons for potential regression. He obviously had an incredible year. Like I don't want to make it like making mistakes in that. The question is, what does he do going forward? And that's why we're focusing on this.
I'm a big fan of the total QBR metric. I use it all the time. Total QBR is based on expected points added, EPA. So total QBR factors in context. Treats a 5-yard completion on a 3rd and 4 different than a 5-yard completion on a 3rd and 20. Also, total QBR factors in what a quarterback does as a runner, factors in the taking of sacks. Also, total QBR is adjusted for strength of opposing defense. Are there ways in which total QBR could be even better?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, I love QBR, but it is, what year is it? 2025? It's like 12 years old at this point. I mean, it's ancient in terms of NFL metrics. Oh, I mean, there's so much. Yes, I think there's a lot of factors we could incorporate or work in there. It does do a really nice job of describing a quarterback's general quality of play in a game, and it's remarkable for how old it is, how much lasting power it has. But yes, certainly there are factors in there that I think ought to, I'll give you an example of something that has changed over time that we've realized is quarterbacks in QBR get extra credit when they are playing, when they play under pressure. So an incompletion under pressure doesn't hurt you as much. A completion under pressure helps you more. One thing we've learned since the creation of QBR is really that pressure is oftentimes quarterback created. It has a lot more to do with and even when it's not, it has a lot more to do with the quarterback than the offensive line, right? Even if you have a bad offensive line, you can adjust for that, and you know that. And so I think that it's sort of by giving that sort of extra credit, by framing it that way, we were rewarding a certain type of quarterback in ways that they probably shouldn't. And it's not to say that there isn't value in that. I'm thinking of peak Russell Wilson, right? Who sort of invited a lot of pressure and then would make these magical plays out of it. That is a great skill that he could do that, but it doesn't make it better than the guy who just makes the play before the pressure comes in the first place, that kind of thing. But there's so much more. I mean, now that was pre-player tracking that QBR was created. That was before I was at ESPN too. And so there's a lot more information we have now.
When you yourself are trying to assess NFL quarterbacks, I'm assuming that you start with total QBR, but are you a fan of the other advanced quarterback stats like EPA per play, Pro Football Focus grades, Aaron Schatz's DVOA metric, etc.?
Oh, no, I'll look at anything. QBR is my first starting point. By the way, QBR basically is EPA per play, right? It came from a time that people didn't know what EPA per play was, and so that's part of the reason why it was branded this other way. It has some other factors that are nice, like opponent adjustments, right? So you're playing a really good defense, you're on the road, those things matter, and it factors that in, garbage time, that kind of thing. But EPA per play is going to be always super close to QBR. I mean, yeah, certainly. I'll look at all those things you mentioned, but I'll also look at other sort of factors like completion percentage over expectation, right? That's sort of like a measure of accuracy. I'll look at, they run a lot of play action, right? That's another thing. Is we know that play action is super beneficial to quarterbacks. They have much higher QBRs when they run play action. Were they playing against situations where, I'm thinking about when Ryan Tannehill had that kind of really good run. If you looked at his numbers, you did see that he was getting more heavy boxes than you would expect for the personnel group because they had Derrick Henry on the team. So it was one of those where opponents were playing him differently, and that affected the way that he, the looks he got. And so there's sort of things that say okay, well, maybe that makes this number, the QBR number you have, slightly more impressive than I would think, or slightly less impressive than I would think. And so, yeah, there's so much important context that goes out there. And, I look at everything, of course.
You in a post on X this past Wednesday, May 28th, noted that while the Eagles are FPI's Super Bowl favorite, they are the smallest preseason Super Bowl favorite that the FPI has had since it began projections in 2015. What do you make of that?
I think it speaks to the quality of that top five. So Eagles, Chiefs, Ravens, Lions, Bills. they are all so close that I think they cannibalize each other's Super Bowl probability. And I think that's the thing is that what makes Philadelphia best is probably that they have all five of those teams have great offenses. Not all five of them have great defenses. The Eagles, we certainly expect that they do. But Philly might be, would you expect Philly to be the worst offense of that group? I think that's sort of reasonable. And we have them as the best team in football, but it's so narrow. I do think it just speaks to the quality of the top of the NFL and how they all could very easily be Super Bowl champions or even Super Bowl favorites right now.
Final question. You more than anyone I know track who NFL teams have working for them in analytics. This is your pinned post on X. You have the Commanders right now with 5 analytics staffers. The team on its website lists 5 employees under the category of football research and development. We know that Josh Harris is big on analytics. From what you can gather, how in are the Commanders on analytics?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't have like a ton of insight into Washington right now in this administration. I think I will say that the one thing that has surprised me and I think surprised some people around the league is that they have not leaned into quantitative analysis as at least through hiring as much as we might have thought, right? So you remember they brought in Eugene Shen right away, even before they'd hired Peters, right? And then Shen left, and yeah, I thought when Josh Harris bought the team, there was a chance that they could have hired someone that came from analytics to be GM, and if not, then maybe assistant GM. And so to me, that hasn't happened. When you do sometimes see that in other spots around the league, or a couple of spots, I think that was a bit of a surprise to me. I just thought that they might go all in that department. It hasn't seemed like it, but I'm judging off of titles. I'm judging off of staffing and judging on talking to people in different parts of the league. So it may be that they are more involved than we might think. I'm just saying, like, judging from the outside, that's sort of the vibe I pick up.
Understood. ESPN NFL analytics expert Seth Walder. Seth, thanks. All the best.
Thank you.
All right, still to come on the show, in-depth breakdowns of the Nationals and Orioles weekends. You can put your opinions on our teams to work for you on Prize Picks, which is offering free cash to listeners of this podcast. Download the app and use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Yeah, you get $50 when you play $5. Prize Picks Pick'em is available in Virginia and Washington, D.C. You just pick more or less on players in various statistical categories. And Prize Picks Streak has arrived in Maryland. You make a free daily pick. Just choose more or less on one featured player projection each day and build your streak by winning for 2 or more days. Each correct pick grows your streak. All of this on Prize Picks, which is great for baseball, basketball, and hockey. Heck, you on Prize Picks can mix and match player projections from different sports. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports app, and Prize Picks has a special deal for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the app. Use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Yes, $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks is awesome. I've used it. It's a ton of fun. It's easy to use. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your opinions into real money on Prize Picks, and take advantage of what Prize Picks is offering to listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the app. Use the promo code GALDI, and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. A remarkable offensive stretch for the Nationals did end on Sunday, but what a stretch it was. The Nats over the weekend won 2 out of 3 games at the Arizona Diamondbacks to conclude a 4-2 trip out west. Late night on Friday night, a 9-7 win at the Diamondbacks. Late night on Saturday night, an 11-7 win at the Diamondbacks in a game in which the Nats scored 10 runs in the top of the first. Did allow an 11-0 fourth-inning lead to get trimmed to 11-7 off a 5-run Diamondback 6. And Sunday, a 3-1 loss at the Diamondbacks. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 28-31, but the Nats offense over the first 2 games of this series was outstanding. The 9-7 win at the Diamondbacks late night on Friday night, the Nats totaled 9 runs, 11 hits, and 6 walks, went 4 for 11 with runners in scoring position. The 11 hits were 2 home runs, a triple, a double, and 7 singles. James Wood, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer and a walk. Wood in the Nats 4-run third had a leadoff opposite field home run to left center field to cut the Nats deficit to 4-3, marking Wood homering for a 3rd time in 4 games. Josh Bell, he is the Nats starting DH and number 5 batter, went 2 for 4 with a 3-run homer, a single, and a walk. Bell in that Nats 4-run third had a 3-run homer on a bomb to right center field for a 6-4 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 430 feet per StatCast, and Mark Bell homering for a 3rd consecutive game. The 11-7 win at the Diamondbacks late night on Saturday night, the Nats totaled 11 runs, 13 hits, 3 walks, and 5 hit by pitches, and went 9 for 16 with runners in scoring position. The 13 hits were a triple, 5 doubles, and 7 singles. The Nats in the top of the first scored 10 runs on 9 hits, 1 walk, and 3 hit by pitches, 2 of which were drawn by C.J. Abrams, who became just the 8th player since 1969 to be hit by 2 pitches in the same inning of a regular season game. Abrams, as the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 1 for 3 with a single and 3 hit by pitches. This game marked the Nats scoring at least 9 runs for a 4th consecutive game, matching the longest regular season streak of the team scoring at least 9 runs in franchise history. The Montreal Expos scored at least 9 runs in each of 4 consecutive games in June 1995. The Nats scoring 10 runs in the top of the first marked the highest scoring regular season first inning for the Nats since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason. The Nats in their 10-run first per the Elias Sports Bureau matched the longest regular season start of game streak in MLB's expansion era. That's since 1961 for reaching base safely, as the Nats began the game by reaching base in each of the team's first 11 plate appearances. That 10-run first by the Nats late night on Saturday night was incredible. The Diamondbacks starting pitcher was Brandon Pfaadt. He allowed 8 runs without recording an out. And then the 3-1 loss at the Diamondbacks on Sunday. The Nats totaled just 1 run and just 6 hits, so went just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position and struck out 13 times. The 6 hits were 2 doubles and 4 singles. A big item from that game, Diamondback starting pitcher and former Orioles starting pitcher Corbin Burnes. He allowed 1 run in 4 2/3 innings with 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk, but he left the game in the top of the 5th due to right elbow discomfort, and he, during a mound visit in leaving the game, appeared to say, quote, "My elbow's done, it's dead," end quote. Frightening stuff. The Diamondbacks this past December 30th officially announced having agreed with Corbin Burnes on a 6-year contract as a free agent from the O's. So the contract, reportedly a 6-year, $210 million contract with an opt-out after 2 seasons, that he now may have a serious elbow injury in the first season of this contract is why it is such a gamble to pay pitchers big money. The Nats' lone run on Sunday came via Nathaniel Lowe. He is the Nats' starting first baseman and number 3 batter, went 1 for 4 with an RBI single. Lowe in a Nats 1-run 5th had a 2-out opposite field RBI single through the left side of the infield on an 0-2 pitch to cut the Nats deficit to 3-1. I mentioned what James Wood did in the 9-7 win at the Diamondbacks late night on Friday night. Wood was the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter in each of the 3 games in this series. He had another productive series. Wood in the 11-7 win at the Diamondbacks late night on Saturday night. Went 2 for 6 with an RBI single and another single, and had an outfield assist. And Wood, in the Nats' 3-1 loss at the Diamondbacks on Sunday, went 0 for 2, but drew 2 walks. James Wood, for this regular season now, has an OPS of .952, ranking number 1 among all qualified players on the Nats and number 7 among all qualified players in the majors. The Nats won 2 out of 3 games at the Diamondbacks over the weekend, despite not getting a single good outing from a starting pitcher. The 9-7 win at the Diamondbacks late night on Friday night. Jake Irvin allowed 6 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 10 hits, which were 3 doubles and 7 singles. He issued a walk. He recorded no strikeouts, but he did throw a lot of strikes. 93 pitches, 61 strikes, 32 balls. So the 11-7 win at the Diamondbacks late night on Saturday night. Michael Soroka officially allowed 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a homer, a double, and 4 singles. He issued a walk. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He did throw a lot of strikes, 94 pitches, 64 strikes, just 30 balls. So Soroka began his outing with 3 perfect innings, but he, in the bottom of the 4th, gave up a 2-out, 2-run homer by Josh Naylor to right field, and Soroka, in a 5-run Diamondback 6, was charged with 2 runs. And then the 3-1 loss at the Diamondbacks on Sunday. Mitchell Parker allowed 3 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 3 hits, which were a home run, a double, and a single. He issued 2 walks. He recorded just 2 strikeouts. He threw a lot of strikes, 66 pitches, 44 strikes, just 22 balls. All 3 of the runs that Parker allowed, all 3 of the hits that Parker allowed, and 1 of the 2 walks that Parker allowed came in the bottom of the 1st, during which he gave up a 1-out, 2-run homer by Eugenio Suarez on a moonshot to center field for a 3-0 Diamondbacks lead. The homer went a projected 466 feet per StatCast. But Mitchell Parker now, for this regular season, has a first-inning ERA of 10.50. He, over 12 first innings, has allowed 15 runs, 14 earned. He, over the rest of his innings, for the most part, has been good. But he, in these first innings, has been horrible. This was Nats manager Davey Martinez during his postgame session with reporters on Sunday evening on Mitchell Parker. And then you'll hear a follow-up exchange between my co-host on the Nats Chat podcast, Nats insider Mark Zuckerman of MASNsports.com, and Martinez.
He was good. I mean, after the first inning, he settled down and gave us five strong innings. So we got to get him to kind of settle down for that first inning. That first inning's kind of beating him up a little bit, but after that, he was solid.
Do you guys start thinking about things you can do in the bullpen beforehand, ways to try to mentally kind of change what's going on before he takes them out?
Well, we've done a whole lot already. I mean, it's just kind of getting him settled in. I mean, I thought today the ball came out a lot better. We didn't walk anybody. They just got to him early, and then after that he settled down a little bit. Mislocation early in the game, but I think he was more focused on throwing strikes and not walking guys.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this knowing that the Nats are almost certain to not do this because they don't seem to be in favor of doing stuff like this. But Mitchell Parker is a prime candidate for the opener strategy. The strategy by which you begin the game with a reliever, you have that reliever work an inning, maybe 2, and then you go to your quote-unquote starting pitcher. The first inning traditionally is the highest scoring inning in MLB. Mitchell Parker is getting abused in these first innings, and it would make a lot of sense to adopt the opener strategy when his turn in the rotation comes up. And I know the Nats bullpen is not good. I get that, but the bullpen has been better lately. And if you started the game with, say, a Cole Henry or a Brad Lord, had that guy work an inning, maybe more, and then went to Mitchell Parker, maybe, just maybe, you'd get better results. Speaking of the Nats bullpen, it in the team winning 2 out of 3 games at the Diamondbacks over the weekend was good in 2 of the 3 games. The 9-7 win at the Diamondbacks late night on Friday night. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 4 innings. Andrew Chafin tossed a scoreless bottom of the 6th with 2 strikeouts despite giving up a 1-out double. Brad Lord tossed 2 scoreless innings with 3 swinging strikeouts. He tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th despite issuing a leadoff walk and giving up a 1-out single as second baseman Luis Garcia Jr. pulled off a 4-3 double play on which he tagged the runner and then threw across the body for the out at first base. And Kyle Finnegan in the bottom of the 9th allowed a run but got the save. He issued a leadoff hit by pitch at Corbin Carroll, who then stole second base, advanced to third third base on a ground out and then scored on another ground out. The 11-7 win at the Diamondbacks late night on Saturday night. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 3 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Jackson Rutledge was a mess, so he officially allowed 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He and the Diamondbacks 5-run 6, faced 5 batters but got just 2 outs as he, over the first 3 batters he faced, gave up a 1-out, 2-run triple, a 1-out RBI infield single, and a 1-out 2-run homer, trimming the Nats' lead from 11-2 to 11-7. But Jose A. Ferrer tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th, despite issuing a leadoff hit by pitch, and Cole Henry tossed 2 scoreless innings. And the 3-1 loss at the Diamondbacks on Sunday, 3 Nats relievers combined for 3 scoreless innings. Eduardo Salazar, he in the bottom of the 6th, faced 5 batters, got 3 outs as third baseman Jose Tena committed a throwing error, and Salazar issued a 2-out walk, but no runs scored. Zach Brixey tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 7th, and Brad Lord tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th. But the biggest news regarding the Nats bullpen over the weekend was them on Saturday evening announcing having designated reliever Jorge Lopez for assignment and announcing having recalled reliever Eduardo Salazar from AAA Rochester. Davey Martinez, during his pregame session with reporters on Saturday evening, said that the Nats were not the right fit for Jorge Lopez. That was telling. The Nats this past January 11th announced having agreed with Lopez as a free agent on a 1-year contract, which reportedly was worth $3 million. He, for the Nats in the 2025 regular season, had the following stats: 26 games, 24 2/3 innings, ERA of 6.57, whip of 1.297, record of 6-0. So that sparkling record of 6-0 could not prevent Lopez from being DFA'd, and yet another example of how pitcher win-loss records are borderline meaningless. The Nats DFA'd Jorge Lopez 1 year and 1 day to the day that the New York Mets DFA'd Lopez on May 30th, 2024, off him on the previous day, throwing his glove into the stands following an ejection. Lopez's final appearance for the Nats came in their 9-3 10-inning win at the Seattle Mariners late night this past Thursday night, May 29th, 2025, 1 year to the day of him throwing the glove into the stands. He, in that game this past Thursday night, allowed 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and Lopez in that game allowed his emotions to get the better of him, according to Davey Martinez during his post-game session with reporters. And as I said, Martinez during his pregame session with reporters on Saturday evening said that Lopez and the Nats were not a good fit. Again, very telling. It does seem like Jorge Lopez being DFA'd was about more than just poor performance. This guy has issues controlling his emotions. Here was Martinez during that pregame session with reporters on Saturday evening on Lopez, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange.
He has up and downs, just so far this year. It got to the point where you saw what Lord did yesterday, and it felt like, now's the time to really try to focus and give our young kids a shot to go ahead and do what they've been doing. So, nothing against Lopi. He was good. It's just, like I said, the inconsistencies, we felt like, that for me, this was the time to go ahead and say, hey, let's just focus on our young guys and give them an opportunity to see what we got.
You mentioned that historically he had kind of gotten off to slow Aprils. For you in May, what did you see in his progress, and why do you think he ultimately wasn't able to figure it out here?
Yeah, it's sometimes places are not the right fit, and I don't think this was the right fit for him, So, and I'd rather, like I said, instead of keeping dragging things on, go ahead and do something different. Our guys are actually pitching well. Young guys are doing a lot better. I want to give them the opportunity to go out there. And like I said, let's see what we have here. See what we have in the future. We're trying to build something special. These guys our young guys are all feeling good about themselves. So with that being said, I know there's going to be some up and downs with them, but that's part of the learning process. So, I'm really, really happy about what Lord is doing, Henry's doing. Even Brisky said this next time around, what he's doing as well. He's starting to feel a lot better about himself, attacking the zone. So, I felt like this was the time to do it.
Well, I tell you, an Achilles heel for Nats president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo for years has been off-season bullpen construction. The Nats, before the end of May, cut not 1, not 2, but 3 off-season bullpen acquisitions by Rizzo. The Nats on May 1st announced having designated Colin Poche for assignment. The Nats on May 9th announced having requested unconditional release waivers on Lucas Sims. And the Nats on May 31st announced having designated Jorge Lopez for assignment. All three guys were signed as free agents this past offseason. All three guys gone before the end of May. We love Mike Rizzo. He is the ninja when it comes to trades, but his problems with offseason bullpen construction continue. No game for the Nats on Monday. Next up for them is a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs at Nationals Park. Game 1 Tuesday evening at 6:45, Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Wednesday evening at 6:45, Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Thursday evening at 6:45, Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Well, if you are an Orioles fan, you perhaps know that the O's have quite the history with the Chicago White Sox. So the O's beat the White Sox in 4 games in a best-of-5 American League Championship Series in 1983, en route to winning the 1983 World Series. The O's ended their infamous 21-game losing streak to begin the 1988 regular season with a win at the White Sox, a 9-0 win. The O's on April 29th, 2015, beat the White Sox 8-2 at Oriole Park at Camden Yards in the famous empty stadium game, as there were no fans in attendance due to the Freddie Gray riots and protests. Well, we over the weekend had another chapter between the O's and White Sox. They met in a 3-game series at Camden Yards in what was a battle of the 2 worst teams in the American League, but the result was a 3-game sweep by the O's. Friday, a 2-1 win over the White Sox in a game for which the start was moved up from 7:05 p.m. to 4:31 p.m. due to a pending rainstorm. Saturday, a 4-2 win over the White Sox, and Sunday afternoon, a 3-2 win over the White Sox as the O's, Joe Angel, were back in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe. The win column of the O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 22-36. Second worst record in the American League, but the O's now have won 6 of their last 8 games. The White Sox in this regular season now are an American League worst 18-41. Now, before we go any further, the O's, who for a second consecutive season are being hammered by injury, now are even more injured. 2 right hamstring strains for 2 key players. So the O's on Friday afternoon announced having placed outfielder Cedric Mullins on the 10-day injured list retroactive to May 29th. Due to a right hamstring strain. And Ryan Mountcastle, he had the 2-1 win over the White Sox on Friday as the Orioles starting first baseman and number 4 batter went 2 for 3 with 2 singles and a stolen base, which was a steal of home on the back end of a double steal. But Mountcastle left the game due to right hamstring discomfort, and the O's on Saturday morning announced having placed Mountcastle on the 10-day injured list due to a right hamstring strain. And the O's on Friday afternoon announced having transferred reliever Cody Petit to the 60-day injured list. They on April 22nd announced having put Petit on the 15-day injured list, retroactive to April 21st due to right shoulder inflammation. So here's your updated list of Orioles players on injured lists. Infielder Jordan Westberg, first baseman Ryan Mountcastle, outfielders Cedric Mullins, Tyler O'Neill, and Ramon Laureano, and catcher Gary Sanchez are on the 10-day injured list. And the O's have outfielder Colton Cowser, starting pitchers Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish, and Tyler Wells, and starter/reliever Albert Suarez on the 60-day injured list. The O's actually don't have anyone on the 15-day injured list. The O's authored this 3-game sweep of the White Sox over the weekend, despite the offense not being good. The O's over the 3 games totaled just 9 runs, just 20 hits, and just 5 walks. So the man who the O's took with the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 MLB draft out of a high school in Oklahoma, Jackson Holliday. He was the Orioles starting second baseman and number 1 batter in each of the 3 games in the series. He only had 2 hits in the series, but each hit was an extra base hit. The 2-1 win over the White Sox on Friday, Holliday 0 for 3 with a stolen base. But the 4-2 win over the White Sox on Saturday, Holliday went 1 for 4 with a solo homer. He ended Orioles 1-run first, had a leadoff homer to right field for a 1-0 Orioles lead. And the 3-2 win over the White Sox on Sunday afternoon, Holliday went 1 for 4 with a double. Did commit a fielding error in the White Sox's 1-run 6. But Jackson Holliday for this regular season is number 3 among all qualified Orioles players in OPS 7 59. He has been one of the biggest positives for the O's in this dreadful season that maybe, possibly, is getting better. Also, Kobe Mayo is back. The O's on Saturday morning announced having recalled Mayo from AAA Norfolk. Mayo, per MLB Pipeline, is the Orioles' number 2 overall prospect and is the number 17 overall prospect in baseball, but he has had a hard time sticking in the majors, and Mayo, in the 4-2 win over the White Sox on Saturday, had quite the adventure for his first Major League regular season RBI. He is the Orioles starting DH and number 6 batter, went 1 for 3 with an RBI single. He hit Orioles 1-run fourth, had a 2-out full count RBI single into left field for a 2-0 Orioles lead. He then made the 3rd out in a rundown between first and second base, and he, in the process of this, collided with White Sox second baseman Lenyn Sosa and fell on the infield grass. Sosa walked up to Mayo, who remained in a sitting position with arms spread, and began jawing at Mayo. Mayo stood up, gave Sosa a light shove as Mayo began walking to the Orioles dugout. Sosa then shoved Mayo's back, and benches and bullpens actually emptied, though no punches were thrown. But the whole thing was kind of silly. Kobe Mayo, the O's took him in the 4th round of the 2020 MLB draft out of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, the site of that horrendous mass shooting in February 2018. Kobe Mayo at the time was a sophomore at the school. Excellent starting pitching for the O's in this 3-game sweep of the White Sox over the weekend. The 2-1 win over the White Sox on Friday. Zach Eflin was good for the first time in 3 starts. Funny what happens when you face a bad team in the White Sox. Eflin tossed 7 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up just 4 hits, all of which were singles. He threw a lot of strikes, 99 pitches, 67 strikes, just 32 balls. The 4-2 win over the White Sox on Saturday. Dean Kramer allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 7 strikeouts. He gave up 6 hits, which were a double and 5 singles. He issued 2 walks. He threw 102 pitches, 64 strikes versus 38 balls. And the 3-2 win over the White Sox on Sunday afternoon, the resurgence of Charlie Morton continued. He was very good for a second consecutive start. Morton allowed 1 run, which was unearned in 6 2/3 innings with 7 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up 6 hits, which were a triple and 5 singles, but the triple was a 2-out triple by Mike Tauchman in the top of the 5th on a deep fly ball that, per StatCast, had an expected batting average of just .220. Right fielder Heston Kjerstad whiffed in an attempt at a leaping backhanded catch, and the ball went off the right field wall. Morton did issue a wild pitch and a balk, but he threw a lot of strikes, 100 pitches, 66 strikes versus just 34 balls. The O's this past January 3rd announced having agreed with Charlie Morton on a 1-year contract as a free agent. He got good money. The contract reportedly a 1-year, $15 million contract. This is his age 41 season. Morton was in the Orioles rotation to begin this regular season. He was really bad. He was demoted to the bullpen in late April, but he now seems to have earned his way back into the rotation. Charlie Morton now, over his last 5 games, 2 starts and 3 relief appearances, has allowed just 5 runs, 4 earned in 22 innings with 24 strikeouts versus 5 walks. He's been a lot better lately. This was Orioles interim manager Tony Mansolino during his postgame press conference on Sunday afternoon on Charlie Morton.
He was great, and it was awesome. I love the fact, I told the guys, the best part of that whole thing for him, he goes 6 2/3, gets into the 7th, and with everything that he's been through this year, there's been negativity surrounding him, and I get it, and I get, we need guys to perform and all that, but this is also a guy that's performed for a long time in the big leagues, and to see kind of the negativity, but then, the Baltimore fans stand up and give him a standing ovation coming off the mound. That was my favorite part. And I told the infielders that when I went out there. That was nice to see, because we know Charlie the guy. We know how incredible he is and how accountable he is. And it just makes us all bigger fans of him and makes us feel really good when we see Charlie be Charlie.
And Charlie lately has been Charlie. Orioles relievers in this 3-game sweep of the White Sox over the weekend were mixed. A 2-1 win over the White Sox on Friday. 2 Orioles relievers combined to allow 1 run in 2 innings. Brian Baker tossed a perfect top of the 8th, but Felix Bautista in the top of the 9th, the latter run, did get the save. He in the inning gave up 2 doubles and issued a walk. With a 4-2 win over the White Sox on Saturday, 4 Orioles relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 innings. Felix Bautista again had problems. He tossed a scoreless top of the ninth with 3 strikeouts for the save, despite issuing 2 walks. And the 3-2 win over the White Sox on Sunday afternoon, 3 Orioles relievers combined to allow 1 run in 2 and a third innings. Gregory Soto allowed 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. He, to the first batter he faced, gave up a 2-out solo homer by Mike Tauchman to right field in the top of the 7th to cut the Orioles' lead to 3-2. But Andrew Kittredge, in the top of the 8th, faced 2 batters and got 2 outs. And Brian Baker tossed a perfect top of the 9th with 2 strikeouts for the save as Felix Bautista was unavailable. Also for the O's over the weekend, they on Saturday night announced that reliever Cianel Perez had cleared outright waivers and accepted an assignment to AAA Norfolk. The O's, the previous Saturday evening, May 24th, announced having designated Perez for assignment. And the O's on Friday announced the hiring of 54-year-old John Mabry as a senior advisor to the Major League coaching staff. John Mabry was a Major League first baseman and outfielder across 14 seasons. He spent the 2024 season as a hitting coach for the Miami Marlins. He was their assistant hitting coach for the 2023 season, so some help for Tony Mansolino. No game for the O's on Monday. Next up for them is a 6-game trip out west, beginning with a 3-game series at the Seattle Mariners. Game 1 Tuesday night at 9:40, Tomoyuki Sagano will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 2 Wednesday night at 9:40, Cade Povich will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And Game 3 Thursday afternoon at 3:40, Zach Eflin will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Tuesday show, episode 1086. We'll have plenty for you on the Commanders and more. Neither the Nationals nor the Orioles play on Monday, so we've got some open real estate on Tuesday's show. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
The day of the NFC Championship, someone I know who is very well plugged in said the Commanders know they're going to get their asses kicked today.